What's up, everyone? This is Emmanuel live at the NPEA conference here in Philadelphia, and I'm here with a very special guest. Why don't you introduce yourself to everybody, let everybody know who you are, what you do.
Hey, this is Andre Robert Lee. I'm a teacher, activist, filmmaker, director, producer, and good troublemaker.
I like that. Good troublemaker. All right, what brought you to the conference?
I was invited to give a keynote address, and when I first heard about the conference's theme, my thought was like, yeah, I'm with it, because my talk is called Access is My John, actually. And the whole idea of breaking down what access means, why I'm committed to it, and then helping folks who are visiting understand what John is and means.
Yeah. So you bringing them into Philly, a little bit of Philly, yeah. When you say access is your John, like, what does that mean to you? Like, I don't want to give away too much of what you're going to talk about, but just if you can give us a little sample.
Yeah, so, I grew up in North Philly, and I got a scholarship to go to a big, crazy, wild high school in Philadelphia, and it was kind of crazy. Like, taken from North Philly, all of a sudden put into this big private school, and I was a little shocked and thought, like, how are people living like this, and I'm living differently in North Philly? Y'all don't seem much smarter than me. What's the story? And at an early age, I got committed to the idea of access, thinking that if people knew what they could go in different spaces and achieve different things and were entitled to different parts of the world, that is how we change how we move through the world. So I got committed to this idea of what does access mean and how do we achieve it, and just know that we have it.
Got you. So can you drop the name of the school?
Yeah, Germantown Friends School.
Okay.
I teach there right now.
Wow. Okay.
I teach filmmaking there, which is kind of dope. We started a program about 10 years ago, and if I can brag, I got 25 kids that are in filmmaking programs, school. 4 of them work for me right now. I was just texting with some of my editors. It's like I made my little greenhouse of kids who are filmmakers.
That is incredible. Because, it's a thing, because we just did a summit, and we're, just helping expose kids in the arts to certain things, to kind of have them have aspirations that they can lean towards.
Yeah.
When you think about what I'm saying in terms of exposure, how important was exposure for you in your path towards not education, but towards filmmaking?
Yeah, exposure was deeply important because I didn't pursue film when I finished high school or college. I thought I received so many scholarships. Film is an empty, vacuous field, doesn't mean anything. I need to go into a world and give back to society because I had so much given to me. And it was through working at a place called the Ford Foundation for a while that I figured out that, wait a minute, film and education go hand in hand. And I quit and jumped into the film world. So I call myself an autodidact. I learned everything on set. I didn't go to film school at all. I was just saying to you earlier, my first big job was in a Spike Lee movie, and I didn't know how things worked. But because I could read, write, and think, I jumped into a really dope position right away. People were like, "Did you get that job because your last name is Lee?" And I was like, "No, I'm not related. I wish I was related, but I'm not related to the people." So the idea of jumping into film, for me, was like I didn't think I could do it. Because I was a lower-income kid from North Philly and thought, there's no way I can get into the film world. I don't know people, I don't have connections, but I got on set and learned it all. So my idea of teaching film and working at film now is showing people you can actually do work. I did a really cool program here in Philadelphia with formerly incarcerated people and saying these are good jobs. You can potentially get on the film set and work in various sets of productions, and they don't care so much about your background. It's how you show up and how you present yourself. Because I think that is a really great opportunity, and film just offers so much for people.
We're riffing off of exposure, and then you told us your journey, how you got into the set of Spike Lee, and then kind of the work that you're doing. Specifically, let's just focus in on the work you're doing right now. Why is it important for students? Let's talk to the parents. Why is it important for them to support their student right now? Maybe the parent doesn't have no clue about art, about arts, they have no clue about filmmaking. What's some encouragement that we can give a parent to help them support their child to enter in programs such as yours and others around the city?
Yeah, I would say that that film I worked on was a movie called The Best Man, and it was Malcolm Lee's first production. He's Spike Lee's cousin, so Spike walked into Universal and helped a deal fall in place, and Malcolm proved himself. Malcolm's a really good director, so it was awesome. And Malcolm grew up seeing Spike make movies. He was close to that. And if you don't have that kind of access and understanding and ability to know what's happening and just get past the mystery of the craft. And Malcolm went to film school and studied. I'm not taking from him at all. But if you don't have the ability to get past that moment of fear or misunderstanding of the craft, you miss the opportunity to jump to the creative part of it.
Right.
So for parents, I say if you can find a program that just helps your child begin to think about getting rudimentary skills and getting confidence in this space and universe when it comes to creation and creativity, that can make a big difference, because moving to the creative spectrum is really hard. And if you're stuck in the like, well, I don't know how to do these little small things, you don't get a chance to jump into the creative spectrum. Because you got to have the foundation. That's why in art schools, most classes, the foundation is the first course.
Yeah.
Because they understand colors, approach, thinking, and get your mind flowing, and then you go in the direction you need to go in to create. So if there's a chance for a child to take a program right now in the city, just get confidence, to make friends, to create and make and do and like mess up and then get it right. I think all that is a chance for growth for kids.
Right, that makes a lot of sense. And even riffing more on that, like for those students out there who are like, or better yet, like what kind of classes or things that students should be thinking about now? Because your entry is unorthodox, but now looking back, you have the wisdom to say, hey, if I could do it again, this is what I would like. You know what I mean? What would you tell students to do, or what kind of classes would you encourage them to take, or extracurricular activities they should get involved in?
Well, I tell all students, whatever you do, if you're going to go to film school, promise me you'll take English, history, philosophy classes, because if you're a good thinker and writer, your creativity will flow. And also, when it comes to the business of film sets and the business of entertainment and the business period, you can get further along when you can read, write, and talk. Like plain and simple. That's like one thing. And then try different areas. Like if you think you want to be an artist but you don't know which area you like, try painting, try drawing, try filmmaking, try photography, and see how it feels. Try it on. Put the hats on and try it on. Design, whatever it may be, and then find your way. Because unless you are like a 6-year-old prodigy that can draw or photograph or film, go for that. But I think it's important to try different areas. And the whole idea is, it takes a long time to get an understanding of how to approach work. When I approach a new project, I'm like, okay, how do I do this? It almost feels like I'm starting from the beginning, but I have to remember that I have my whole strength and my long history of production and talking to people and working and writing and thinking, and all that matters. So for parents, talk to the kids, see what they like. For the kids watching or thinking about this, try different things on, and don't be afraid to fail. Messing up is the best way to learn. It's the best way to learn.
Yeah, that's a fact. That's a fact. You won't know till you do. That's like when you learn by doing, and then in doing you learn, and then you gain wisdom. That's a fact. All right, let's dig in a little bit on some of what brought you here and why they have you here today. So you worked with major networks. You see, like, this is amazing, y'all. CNN, HBO, PBS. You were on set. You worked with Spike Lee. What advice do you have for students who want to break into the film industry?
I met this guy through a friend of my good friend. Said, "Oh, my buddy works in costume design of movies. I know it's not what you want to do, but maybe you could talk to him." And so he and I met. He's like, "All right, cool, good luck." And I was like, "Great, nice to meet you." I was dropping off a resume. This is back in the day. You had to drop our resumes to film sets. To a production office for a Lawrence Fishburne movie. This is before The Matrix. But he's making a movie. He was on like a 6th floor. And then I was riding the elevator down. The door opens on the 3rd floor. And I saw that guy. His name is Frank. His name is Frank. And he's an amazing guy today. He did all this stuff for Power. Like he's huge. He worked with Ruth Carter. Like he's huge. And so the door opened and I was like, "Yo, Frank." And he goes, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "I was trying to get a job upstairs." He goes, "Well, come through." And I came out, and I was like, "What's this?" He said, "Oh, this is a Spike Lee movie. It's going down." And I was like, "Oh, that's cool." No lie. The unit production manager walks by, and she's like, expletive she screamed. And like, "What happened?" Because Malcolm Lee's assistant just quit. And I was like, "Word, bam."
Wow.
And she goes, "Are you serious?" I was like, "Yes, I'm very serious. I'm ready to work right now. What's up?" She was like, "Let me look this through and get back to you." She came back in 50 minutes. She's like, "Can you hang out for a few hours and we'll try and get you in to talk to Malcolm?" And I was like, "Yes, I'm here. I'll do it." And I waited around on that production office all day. And at 5 o'clock, Malcolm comes out with a team of producers. They're going on the scout location. And she goes, "Get in the elevator and pitch yourself." And I was like, for real? Like, I got to do an elevator pitch.
Wow.
So I'm in the elevator, all these people like, so my name is Andre, and I want to work in movies, and I haven't had a job, da-da-da. And Malcolm's like, come back tomorrow at 8. You know,
Wow.
we met and talked, and that's how I got the job. So the connections with people, because I was talking to everybody under the sun that I could talk to. It goes back to that, not who you know, whom you know, the plural. So the mentorship, I had a little bit of that on sets. You know, people just kind of looking out for me because I know what I was doing.
Right.
You know, I was one of the biggest mistakes I made on the Best Man set was there were wires laying out on the floor, and this is a big union $10 million production. I was like, oh, I'm gonna move those. Those seem to be in the way. And yeah, I almost got killed by Teamsters because I didn't know. You don't touch union stuff. So the mentorship was people, and I think because it was a black film set, people were like, baby, don't do that. You know? And people kind of corralled and surrounded me somewhat.
Yeah.
It also helped that I was the director's personal assistant, so everybody wanted, they knew how to get to me to get to people. So all of a sudden I had power. And no lie, I got that job, I think, because I could read, write, and think. I sat down with Malcolm. I was like, I have no film experience, really. I've worked on a few small things, but I don't know anything much. I didn't go to film school, but this is who I am. And he was like, I feel you. And he gave me the opportunity, and that was like the beginning. So, yeah, the mentorship is a tricky one. I try and mentor as much as I possibly can because I had a few, but I didn't really have the one I think I needed so intensely.
Right. Yo, I just when you said showing up by yourself, and he said he feels you. Can you unpack that a little bit? The importance of showing up as yourself in these areas.
For a student to show up as yourself, if you, no matter who you are, and no matter what you bring to the table, be that. And if it's the right place for you, it'll work. If you come and present a self that isn't who you truly are, you might end up in a space that doesn't feel comfortable, that doesn't fit. You might try and fit into it. Sometimes there is that adjusting, but I think, and I believe in this with my work. The search for identity is a lifelong process. So if someone says, "Who are you?" I'm like, "I'm Andre. Get to know me. Let's go from there."
Right.
I do have my bio, which breaks down all the stuff I've done. You know, I think showing up as your authentic self and being who you are and being comfortable, and not being afraid to say I don't know. You know, and not being afraid to mess up, and not being afraid also to be confident in what you do know.
Right.
All those mix into place, and then, you know, someone said to me in one of my talks, and it felt like a generational thing. He was like, "Yo, how do you do this work? Sometimes it feels really awkward to go in space." And I was like, "Yo, life is awkward.
Yo,
like,
that's
deal
so true.
with it. Just deal with it, and like stumble. Like, hey, I goofed up.
Yeah.
I said that wrong. Got the wrong word. I misspelled that. I'm sorry. Let's move on."
Right.
But if you hesitate and freeze because things feel scary and too intense, and I know some folks have anxiety. That's real. I'm not denying that. But if you don't take the risk of sometimes take that leap, you miss opportunities.
Yeah, that's so true. Oh, so good. I feel like we could talk for hours, man. We never got to build outside of this.
Please, yes, I need
to
it.
go. So we're gonna just hit you with some quick fire questions. What college did you attend?
I went to Connecticut College for undergrad and Tufts for grad school.
Okay. And what was your major?
My major was African American history, and then I had to switch to American history because the one teacher at my college left, and then I got a master's in education from Tufts.
Got you. What made you choose that major?
I chose that major because I wanted to learn about myself, and I thought I wanted to be a teacher. And I did want to be a teacher. I am a teacher, so choosing African American history, I wanted to learn more about myself because I felt like I didn't know much about the history of my people and what was happening in the world and how that affected the various situations, and taking it all the way back to that concept of access. Because I grew up thinking like, oh, we were lower income because my family didn't work hard, maybe they weren't as smart. And then as I started studying, I was like, wait a minute, there's a whole universe, a system. Like, my mom is smarter than the people I'm meeting who are millionaires. What's up with that? You know? That's where I was really trying to understand that.
And you learn about yourself, and then you saying, I'm going to take up education. Could you speak to the importance of, like, for the student out there who's like, man, I want to be a teacher. I don't know, being a teacher. Can you speak to the importance of us having more representation in education, in schools?
For sure. I've been lucky to have a number of people of color as teachers, and I'll talk about one who just shaped and changed my life. And she's well known today by many. But back in the day, she was teaching at UPenn, and she was doing her PhD at UPenn, and she needed a job. So she taught at my high school. She taught a class called African American Poetry Beyond the Blues. And I started reading it, and I was like, what is all this stuff, you know? There's a poem by Gwendolyn Brooks called Andre. My mother's name was Gwendolyn. I was like,
Too many connections.
This feels like me.
Yeah, synergy.
And her name is Elizabeth Alexander. And she read the poem at Obama's inauguration. And she's now president of the Mellon Foundation.
Wow.
And back then, she was a 20-something-year-old doing her PhD who taught at my high school and just came in and saw like little black kids like, oh my God, here's some poetry, here's your life, here's the world, and really encouraged. The thing she did with me one summer, she was like, you're in the school, you're on a scholarship, you're popular, you're doing well to an extent, but you're not a good writer. And if you work with me, I'll help you learn what it means to be a good writer. So we spent the summer, this is the summer when I'm in high school, and we read Ralph Ellison's Invisible Man. And she had me read the intro 5 times and create a 5-page essay in the summer, and like after 10th grade. 5-paragraph essay, and we sat down. I remember I handed her the first essay. Here you go. She goes, wait, where are you going? Come here. We have to edit this. And I was like, edit? I'm done. She goes, you're about to learn the secret. This is how you become a better writer. You have to edit. And the secret to writing is writing, 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 and writing. And she was a black woman, you know, and the literature we studied, and I have a number of them. I'm lucky to have a few African-American teachers, mostly women actually, who really saw me and were like, read this book and tell me what you think. You know, let's look at your essay and tell me what you did. Like they coddled me, but they also invited me to do the work with them. And that was the power. So what it meant was, you know, I didn't have to explain myself in numerous ways. You know, I remember the day that I read that Andre poem, and I read and looked up, and I saw Elizabeth like, you like that, right? And I was like, I do, you know, and just, they see you. They see you and they experience you. And there's like an understanding of the difficulty that lies in being a person of color. Like I always say to people that the whole idea and lesson of you need to work twice as hard is real, but it should be followed up with, you need to work twice as hard, but that is not because you're twice less. That's because it's twice as challenging out there inside. So that struggle is not an internal one. That struggle is one outside. It's nothing to do with us. So don't take that lesson of working twice as hard mean that you're less than. It means that you're fighting against something that's difficult, that we're trying to deconstruct and rebuild, that is fighting against you in numerous ways. Doesn't mean you can't win and you can't survive. But I just think when you tell a kid you gotta work twice as hard, it needs to be followed up with, that doesn't mean you're twice as less. Because I internalized it, was like, oh, why twice as hard? What do we not do? Just know what interrupted me in a proper way at an early age. And so I try and get that message of like, you are enough. You're more than enough. And you're actually gifted and a descendant. Like as an African American who's a descendant of enslaved people here in America, I have to remind myself that the people who were brought here were not just created on the boat. They came from a whole universe, a whole world that had a long history of people surviving, creating societies that were disrupted. And then I add into that, I'm sorry, go for it. I add into that the notion and idea that you are the descendant of the survivors that lived through a horrible and terrible system that tried to keep you down. And here you are, still rising and still going. So embrace all of that and move forward.
Favorite college memory?
Favorite college memory? There was a group called the Lava Lamp Enthusiast Society. Okay. And I was like, yo, that sounds crazy. I'm going. And I went. And by the end of my time at the school, my buddy and I were the head of it. And we changed it to the Undisputed Funk Organization. Wow. And I was a lead singer in a funk band. And I would come out in a wig and an outfit. And by the end of the show, I'd just be in hot pants and go-go boots and the afro, and that was it. So that I tell my students, like, you were in the band, and the New York Times came to an article on us. It was crazy.
Wow, that's dope.
Yeah, we had a good time.
All right, last question. If you could say one thing to your high school self, what would it be?
I love you. You know, and feel that, and just know what that means, and embrace that, and live with that. Because I think that black men everybody needs to hear it, but sometimes black men need to hear it even more in some circumstances. I only speak from that perspective as a black man. I know black women of color have a whole nother universe.
Right.
But I would say to little Andre, I love you, and know that.
Wow, what an amazing conversation. That wraps it up. Thank you so much, Andre. It was
My pleasure.
definitely dope. It was definitely a blessing. That's it, y'all. Thanks.